I bought this rare Dead or Alive special edition Xbox, but the seller asked me a weird question before they sent it. I'll get into that in a minute. Let's plug it in and see if it works. Okay, it's plugged in. Disk drive. Works, good. Shows up on the screen, great. Oh. We've got a very seriously clicking hard drive. Let's see if it even fully starts up. I don't think it's gonna. Error 07, your Xbox requires service. A while back I made a video about a pure white original Xbox, and it had a similar problem. And one of the things that I did to try and fix it was wiggle the cable, take the cable out and plug it in. And you guys totally roasted me for that, saying that's not gonna do anything when the hard drive is clicking. So I read all of your comments and suggestions. I have all the parts. Let's take this one apart and fix it how you guys suggest. Now this Xbox is worth between $500 and $1,000 on eBay, depending on the condition and what's included. I have the console and controller, so I think this one is probably worth between $600 and $700. That's assuming we can fix it. Okay, and with all those screws out, we can take the top cover off, see what we've got inside. So the first thing I want to do is remove all of this and get down to the board and see what condition that's in and see if there's any capacitors we need to replace. And with all that stuff removed, we should be ready to pull this straight up and out. There we go. And now we can have a look at our capacitors. I don't see any immediate problems. They actually look pretty good. This system is actually really nice and clean. So to do everything we need to do to this, I think it's going to be easier if I remove the board. I also want to check the underside of the board and just make sure this board's in as good a condition as it looks like it is. Also, these were on my desk mat after I removed the disk drive and hard drive. These look like dead spiders. I guess all I can say is at least they're not alive. Never know what you're gonna find when you open this old stuff up. So I'm gonna get this board out now. Here's the rest of the story on this console. So a bit after I bought this Xbox, the seller actually messaged me on eBay and said this: "Hello Steve, how are you? So a few things. I wanted to see if you'd be willing to cancel the transaction for the Dead or Alive Xbox." Now I don't remember what happened, but before I responded to the seller, they had already sent the console. I bought this thing fair and square, and I'm fully justified in keeping it and selling it myself, but I thought it might be more fun to fix it, upgrade it, and then send it back to the seller who didn't really want to sell it. So let's get this upgrade done, see if we can get it working, and then we'll send it back. So this does look to be a revision 1.0 board. You can tell by the GPU fan. So the first thing I'm gonna do is replace the clock capacitor. And then once we get that done, I'll show you the mods I'm gonna do on this. This is gonna sort of end up being like the ultimate original Xbox, at least in my opinion. I'm pretty new to modding these things, so there'll be a lot of opinions in the comment section. But either way, this is gonna be a pretty solid Xbox, I think, by the time we're done. And after looking through all of my capacitors for this board, I have no more clock capacitors. So I'll need to do this later in the video. I'll try to do it on camera. Sometimes these take a while to get here, so hopefully I'll have time to do that on camera. Let me show you how I'm gonna upgrade and mod this thing. So this is what we've got. We got a Project Stellar hard mod in this box. So we'll be installing that. We've got the Xbox HD, so we can do HDMI output. We've got the new cable we need. We've got the IDE to SATA converter. And then we've got a 2 terabyte 870 Samsung Evo SSD. So the first step to installing all of this stuff is to install Project Stellar. So let's get started on that. There's a very in-depth guide online on Project Stellar's website. So I'm not gonna show all the parts of hooking this to my computer and downloading the software. I'm gonna do that all off camera. We'll just do the hardware part. So I have the software loaded onto Project Stellar. Next, we need to install the pin header that goes right here. That's this guy right here. So we need to suck all the solder out of these holes, and then we will put this header into those holes and solder it on. Okay, and we have the header installed. We've got all of it soldered on really nicely, so that is good to go. Now we need to solder this little guy on. Now we got the metal spacer right there, and then this we'll just plug in right there, and then we'll put the screw in there. We're not quite ready for that yet. Let's get the HDMI mod installed first. Then we'll put all this together into the board and then start it up and see if it'll work.
Before Steve dives deeper into this project, let me show you something that's been a real game changer for how I carry my gear. The Tomtoc Defender A42 laptop bag. This isn't just a laptop bag. It's military grade protection for your MacBook Pro or any device you rely on. With corner armor on all four corners, high resilience edges, and water resistant fabric, it keeps your tech safe whether you're commuting, traveling, or heading into a meeting. I've got mine set up for the daily back and forth between filming at the office and editing video at home or my local coffee shop. Cables, accessories, and my MacBook all perfectly organized thanks to this tri-compartment system. No more digging around or risking scratches. And check this out. The side opening design gives me fast access when it's tucked in a backpack. Super handy for when I'm traveling or need to carry more gear. Plus, that padded shoulder strap makes a huge difference when I'm traveling or lugging this around for long periods of time. If you take your tech seriously, and if you're watching TronicsFix, you probably do, you'll appreciate the thoughtfulness and quality put into this thing. Click on the link down in the description to check it out for yourself. Trust me, your laptop deserves this level of protection. Now back over to Steve. Let's just hope he doesn't mess this one up.
So before we get to installing the actual board with the HDMI port on it, we need to remove this component right here. Then we need to install this board. Then we can install the board with the HDMI on it. Now I should be able to do this fairly easily with a large bead of solder on my iron. Just going to try and bridge these 2 points with the solder, and that should melt both points of solder on that component, and we should be able to pull it off. We need a lot of solder on the iron, and then, oops, we don't want it over there. We want it right here. There we go. Oh, got it. Okay, that was easy enough. Got some extra solder on the board, but that shouldn't be a big problem, but I am going to remove most of it, as much as I can get up easily, just because we don't need a bunch of extra solder floating around. Just going to use some solder wick to do that. All right, I got most of it up. And we'll flip the board over and install that other board. Okay, now this gets placed right here, and we need to line it up with the holes on the board. Now we've got 3 mounting holes, and then we need to apply solder here, 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 right here, and then these are the 3 mounting holes. For the board revision that we have, we need to bridge these pads according to the instructions. And then we need to go bridge this guy. Need a lot more solder there. There we go. This one. There we go. And this one. And there we go. Okay, now that that board is installed, we can flip it over and start working on this board. So next we need to remove the old AV port. There are multiple ways to do this. I'm choosing to use this soldering gun. That is probably one of the easier ways to do it. So I'm gonna flux up all of these joints, and then all I have to do is touch this to the points and press the red button, and that activates a vacuum pump that sucks the solder right out. And with a little wiggling, we can get that port out. Now with the AV port removed, we still need the Xbox to think that a cable is plugged in. So I'm going to attach a wire from here to here and from here to here. And that will trick the Xbox into thinking that the AV cable is plugged in. Okay, and those are looking good. Let's move on to the next step. And now one of the more difficult parts of this mod, we need to install this flex cable. I'm gonna do this part under the microscope. I think we're gonna get a much better view that way. All right, so this flex cable we need to connect to the 4th pin over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, this pin right here. And then we need to connect these over here and these over here. I'll be using my soldering pencil to do this as it's a lot smaller. So let's see if we can do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I'll clean these connections up and we'll move on to the next step. Now we need to connect these 2 wires right over here. So we'll do that next. And we're going to add some solder so we can solder on our ground wire right there. Just like that. Hopefully. The guide's not super clear on the ground wire, but I think that's how it goes. And this wire needs to go right over here. Okay, so we've got a spacer that goes here. These wires go here. The instructions aren't very clear. It shows to solder these points on, but there's nowhere on this board to solder these 2 wires. So I'm gonna leave these here. I don't know if I'm gonna need them or not. But now it's time to get this installed back into the case, and then we'll solder all these points on, put the ribbon cable in, and we should be getting pretty close to test this thing. All right, and here we go. In with the board. That's gonna be hard to solder in once this board goes in here. Oh well. All right, so I'm gonna get this thing mounted in here. Once that's done, then we'll get the soldering done. If it's mounted in, it can't move around as much, so everything will be easier. All right, orange wire first. Here we go. There we go. Red wire next, then the black wire. Now the ribbon cable goes in. There we go. Lock that in. Then this flat cable goes in next. Okay, that's in. Now Project Stellar board goes in, just like that. I'm getting excited. This is gonna be such a cool console. And we have a screw with a Phillips head. Okay. Could have went with just, you know, what they were using for everything else, but they wanted to throw in something different. That's nice and solid. Okay, this is looking great. Now I need to connect the 2 boards so they can talk to each other. Okay, we should be good to go. Still haven't needed these, so I'm going to wrap the ends, tuck them out of the way so they won't be in the way of anything. Then we'll get all the rest of the screws in and we'll get the disk drive and SSD installed. So we need to remove the old hard drive and put the SSD in that slot. Okay, and all 4 hard drive screws are now out. Now the hard drive can come out just like that. So I have this 3D printed bracket for the SSD. I've never installed one of these, so I don't know 100% for sure how this goes. I think it must go on about like this. And then it must go in here like that. Okay, probably need to take that out to actually plug it in because we need to put this guy on there. And that's got to fit on there. Not sure how that's gonna work. All right, so I flip the drive over. I think that'll work a little better. We can connect this right here. There we go. And this guy will just go in here just like that. I mean, I think. Okay, that feels pretty good to me. Before I close this whole thing up though, I did finally get this capacitor to replace the clock capacitor. So let's get that done and then we'll button it all up. So there's a number of ways that we could replace this capacitor. I have the board flipped over, so this is the bottom side. I'm gonna heat one leg and then the other leg back and forth while I pull from the other side. and that will pull that capacitor through. And then I'll do the same thing to install the new one, heat one leg and then the other. All right, I actually was able to heat both legs at the same time, so that worked out really nicely. Now we need to make sure and install the new one correctly. So this white stripe is just going to go towards this white on the board. So we need to install it just like this. I'm actually going to clean the board real quick, just because that capacitor juice can get under there and just cause problems. Now I'm going to add some flux on both of these legs. And then we will heat up each side, probably one by one, and then just push each side of the capacitor through little by little. This is probably not the best way to do this, but it is a way to do it. And if we get it just right, heated just right, we can go back and forth. Okay, that's getting pretty close. There we go. Now we can cut the legs off. I'm going to add a little bit of solder just to make sure we got plenty on there. There we go. And there we go. Now we'll clean the flux off of that. And done. Now let's finally get this thing all installed into the case permanently. All right, and now cable for the disk drive is going to go in next. I've got this all folded in a way I think is going to work. I don't know for sure though until we get it installed. So hopefully it'll work. Okay, so that can go down there, maybe. And now the hard drive tray, what was the hard drive tray, that is now the SSD tray, will go in. Just like that. And then we'll mount in the SSD. Okay, this is what we have. We've got the SSD installed. We've got it connected to power. We've got it connected to the IDE cable. Is this too many bends in this? Yeah, probably. But man, it really fits in there nicely like that. I hope that doesn't negatively affect it, but we're about to find out here in a minute. So I think I'm ready to put the cover on and see if it works. And here we go. All right, that all goes together quite nicely. I love the look of this blue, sort of transparent blue on this Dead or Alive Ultimate Xbox. And now it's been fully upgraded. We've got a hard mod on it. Let's turn it on and see if it actually works. Okay, power's connected. HDMI cable is going in. I love plugging an HDMI cable into an original Xbox. That's amazing. I really hope this works and looks good. Here we go. Powering on. Sounds good so far, but do we get anything on the screen? Fan works. Oh, black screen, come on! Yeah! Okay, and here we go. We are in Stellar OS. So now we just gotta get a dashboard loaded on here, and this is ready to go. And just a quick message to the seller telling him that I've fixed it, upgraded it, and I saw that he wanted to cancel it, and so I'm gonna send it back. I don't wanna have it if you didn't really wanna sell it. Hopefully this will put a smile on the seller's face as well as yours. If you wanna see the pure white Xbox that I bought from that very same seller, I'm gonna put a link for that video up on your screen now. I bought it and it's worth around $2,500. This is the one that you guys roasted me for not replacing the hard drive. So click on the link, come check it out, and see what people said in the comments. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.